Sears was once the biggest retailer in the world, a company so embedded in American life that it was often called the Amazon of its time. For over a century, it dominated department store retail, mail order catalog sales, and even shaped American suburban landscapes with its massive stores anchoring malls across the country. But today, Sears is barely hanging on, with only a handful of locations left and a legacy that feels like a relic of the past. So what exactly happened to Sears? How did a company that once revolutionized how people shopped fall so hard? To understand its rise and fall, we have to go back to the very beginning. Sears was founded in 1892 by Richard W. Sears and Alva C. Roebuck. The company started as a mail-order watch business, catering to rural Americans who didn't have access to big city stores. At the time, the US was still largely an agricultural country, and many people lived far from urban centers. Sears gave them the ability to buy goods through the mail. The original catalog was just a few pages long, but by the early 1900s, it had grown into what people called the Consumer's Bible, a massive publication offering everything from clothes to furniture to even entire house kits that could be delivered by rail and assembled on your land. This mail order model allowed Sears to scale rapidly, and it became especially popular with farmers and working class families. Sears didn't just sell products, it sold dreams. It gave people access to a modern lifestyle. If you wanted a fashionable dress, a sewing machine, a pocket watch, or a new stove, you could find it in the Sears catalog. In 1906, the company built its headquarters in a massive distribution center in Chicago. This wasn't just a warehouse, it was a state-of-the-art logistics operation, and it helped Sears perfect what we now call supply chain management decades before that term became common. As the country urbanized and transportation improved, Sears evolved. In 1925, it opened its first brick-and-mortar store in Chicago. Unlike most other retailers, which started as physical stores and added catalogs later, Sears went in reverse, moving from catalogs to physical locations. The store model took off, and by the mid-20th century, Sears was expanding rapidly into cities and suburbs across the U.S. The post-World War II boom in consumer spending and suburban growth aligned perfectly with Sears' strategy. It became a staple of the American mall and often served as the anchor tenant for new shopping centers being built across the country. By the 1960s and 70s, Sears was not just a department store, it was the department store. At its peak, Sears was the largest retailer in the United States. It sold everything. You could buy clothes, appliances, tools, furniture, even insurance and stocks through its financial arm. Sears created some of the most iconic American brands, like Kenmore appliances, Die Hard batteries, Craftsman tools, and even Allstate insurance. These weren't just popular, they were trusted. Sears became a household name and was considered dependable, affordable, and accessible to the average American family. For decades, it seemed untouchable, but under the surface, the seeds of decline were already being sown. One of the first cracks came from the company's own success. It became so big, so sprawling, and so diversified that it started to lose focus. By the 1980s, Sears owned not only retail stores and mail-to-order businesses, but also real estate through Coldwell Banker, stock brokerage through Dean Witter, and even had a credit card operation. This empire was impressive, but unwieldy. At the same time, competition was heating up. Companies like Walmart, Kmart, and later Target began undercutting Sears on price and adapting faster to changing consumer demands. Walmart in particular was leaner and more efficient. While Sears operated massive multi-level department stores that were often expensive to maintain, Walmart built simpler stores in rural and suburban areas with a heavy focus on logistics and cost-cutting. They used technology to optimize inventory and pass savings to customers. Sears, by contrast, was slow to innovate and held onto outdated business models for too long. Its stores were becoming tired and uninspired, its pricing wasn't competitive, and its customer service reputation started to suffer. During the 1990s, Sears tried to regain its footing. It spun off many of its non-retail businesses, including Allstate, in hopes of refocusing on its core retail operations. It also launched new private label brands and tried to remodel some of its stores. But the retail landscape was shifting fast. Big box stores like Best Buy and Home Depot began eating into Sears' appliance and tool business. Specialty stores like Bed Bath & Beyond, Kohl's, and even fast fashion chains like Old Navy were capturing specific demographics that Sears once dominated. The company was stuck in the middle. too unfocused to appeal to niche shoppers, and too expensive to win the price wars with Walmart. Then came the 2000s, and with them, the internet. While other companies started investing in e-commerce, Sears lagged behind. It failed to see how online shopping would disrupt retail. Amazon, which started as a modest online bookstore, quickly expanded into electronics, clothing, and eventually everything that Sears once sold. Sears had the infrastructure, the brand, the recognition, and the product lines to compete online, but it didn't act quickly enough. It didn't invest in digital transformation the way it needed to, and by the time it tried to catch up, it was already too late. In 2005, a controversial merger reshaped Sears' fate in a major way. Billionaire hedge fund manager Eddie Lampert orchestrated a merger between Sears and Kmart, another struggling retail giant. Lampert promised to revive both brands by combining their resources, cutting costs, and unlocking value from their massive real estate holdings. On paper, this sounded like a strategic play, but in practice, it turned into a slow-motion collapse. The result was that Sears stores became even more outdated, understocked, and understaffed. Loyal customers who still remembered Sears fondly started abandoning it altogether. While Lampert did extract value from Sears' assets by spinning off brands like Land's End and selling real estate, the company stopped being a place people wanted to shop. From 2006 to 2018, Sears closed thousands of stores. Year after year, the company posted losses. Attempts to modernize or pivot failed. In 2018, Sears filed for bankruptcy. Lampert bought the remnants through his hedge fund and created a new entity called Transformco, which kept a few stores open. But by this point, Sears was a shadow of its former self. As of 2025, there were fewer than a dozen Sears stores still operating in the US, and many of them are in obscure or struggling locations. So what really happened to Sears? It wasn't one single thing. It was a combination of slow adaptation, strategic missteps, financial engineering, and ignoring the rise of digital commerce. Sears had every opportunity to lead in the online age. It had customer data, fulfillment centers, nationwide brand recognition, and trusted product lines. Sears also serves as a cautionary tale about corporate identity. It didn't just fail to innovate, it forgot who it was. It tried to be too many things to too many people and lost the very qualities that made it beloved in the first place. While other companies like Target managed to modernize and rebrand themselves for younger shoppers, Sears remained stuck in the past. Its stores felt frozen in time, which didn't inspire confidence in an age where convenience, speed, and experience were everything. The legacy of Sears is still powerful. Older generations remember flipping through the Sears catalog as kids, circling what they wanted for Christmas. Families relied on Kenmore appliances and craftsmen's tools for decades. For many Americans, Sears was a rite of passage, a place to buy a first suit, get a car battery replaced, or furnish a first apartment. But in the end, nostalgia wasn't enough to keep it alive. Today, companies like Amazon have taken the torch that Sears once carried. The idea of selling everything under one roof, whether physical or digital, still appeals to consumers. But unlike Sears, Amazon was born in the tech age and built itself to adapt rapidly. Sears, for all its early brilliance, couldn't make that leap. The story of Sears is a story about American consumerism, about innovation and complacency, about the highs of capitalism and the lows of corporate mismanagement. It changed how people lived and shopped, and for a long time it symbolized progress. But as the world changed, Sears couldn't change fast enough. Its fall wasn't just a business failure, it was the end of an era. Like, comment, and subscribe for daily history and culture content.